Hey guys, welcome back to the Interceptor. We're here with another Alliance War video. This is going to be Alliance War Season 60, Number 3, and AOH has matched up against 2-1-1. And we have some pretty fun fights today, and we also have some pretty miserable fights. One specifically, really two, but one of them was just because I didn't play it perfectly and had pretty bad AI, and the other one was because I played it absolutely the worst way you could possibly do it. So we'll get to that. So we're throwing on our skill boosts here, and we have a couple Mantis fights this war. But starting out here, we are going to be on path 9. We have a rank 4 Zola on node number 9. And Angela's kind of the perfect counter to this. She's never going to get any debuffs on her as long as I have enough buffs, which I will be after I crit for literally the first time because of my my relic. What's it called? The relic ability, where you get a buff when you trigger an armor up. And this person is running 0 points in deep wounds. The reason that I can tell is because deep wounds as a mastery, even if you're reducing the duration of bleeds by 100%, does not actually reduce it to 0. It reduces it to the flat rate. And because I never got a bleed on me this entire fight, I know with 100% certainty this person just had 0 points in deep wounds. So they could have actually dealt some serious damage to me, because let's say they had a bleed on me like right there, and then they threw an L2 and I got the disintegration on me, I could actually take some serious damage, because DOT is increased by the fury that the node gives. So let's say you trigger a hazard shift debuff, and then on the next hit you trigger another one. The second one is going to be powered up by the fury, and that would work with disintegration as well, because it's just the amount that the defender takes, or the attacker takes. And this node obviously has the special refund where specials only cost half. So that is why I'm pushing to L2 here, because I do not want him to just stack a bunch of energizes. And while I do take some disintegration damage, I'm going to regen back most of it. And here our basic does kill, and we do finish our one Angela fight at 69%, which is pretty nice. So, and it was only a minute 40. It wasn't even that long. We'll go on to our second fight here. This is going to be Destroyer on node 18. This is Shock Poison, and we're going to be using Shocker here. Technically, Angela could have taken this fight too, because Power Focus 1 makes it so that Mystic Dispersion is not really a problem. However, Destroyer's protection charges are based off of the opponent triggering buffs. Like, if the opponent's constantly triggering buffs, then he gets a flat 50% protection. That does not go away. There's no way to remove it. So you want to generally avoid using buff champions against him. And Shocker was kind of the perfect counter here, because you only have to hit during one of the phases anyways. And we went for 2 SP1s into an SP2, and this heavy attack is going to finish the fight off. I'm pretty sure the Destroyer was only rank 3, but if that was a rank 4, that 100% still would have killed. It would not have been close. Like, without a doubt, that would have killed. And now we're going to go on to section 2 here, and we are actually splitting a path so that I could take this fight. This is the bad fight. This is the miserable one. This is going to be Spider-Woman on EMP mod stun immunity. We doubled this path to get me an Odin, and I'm still going to die. This is a terrible fight. And the thing is, it's a very doable fight. I just went in with the wrong plan. I severely underestimated the power gain that came from the buffs here when the buffs expired. And I did not prioritize baiting out specials. And if you know something about Spider-Woman, she... What was I going to say? Oh, her special 3 has a long passive stun. And right there, I started charging my heavy when she was around 1 1/4 or 1 1/3 bars of power. And I figured, well, she's that low, there's no way my special 2 will send her to special 3. but I had multiple placebos expire, and then after my L2, I attempted to bait a special out of her, and she refused to throw it, which is great. And then here, we are going to get a very badly timed evade right when I was trying to trigger, where is it? It's not quite. It's about to happen. And here I can't throw my special 3 because I have a power sting on me, and it wouldn't have killed anyways, but I could have at least dealt a little bit extra damage before I died. However, my goal was to just get back to my L2 and throw it because that would have killed. However, I did die to Spider-Woman. And I'm pretty sure she actually failed my dex in the corner because I did attempt to dex that heavy, but I had a fumble on me. Now, there were 2 primary mistakes that I made in that fight that as soon as I watched the fight back, I realized what it was. The first mistake I made was that I charged heavy while the fumble was triggering on me. And if I had just waited to charge heavy, then my Tranquilize would have taken care of the fumble instead of getting it on me, because if you're doing this fight right, that should be the only debuff you ever get on you, is the fumble. Like normally is what I meant. So right here, we're going to go for our heavy and into the L2, and it does kill. I knew that would kill. I knew I didn't need many charges. But the second mistake I made is that I was unaware that Tranquilize still worked against severe debuffs. I was under the impression that Tranquilize would not stop severe debuffs, including the power stings on her SP1. So I assumed that blocking the special 1 would still put power stings on me. Turns out that's not the case. Turns out you can just block the L1 and you'll never get a power sting on you. And yeah, that's just not something I was aware of, unfortunately. And had I known to do that, then I could have just baited out the special 1 and I would have been fine, because I would have baited out SP1 and then SP2 after I threw my my special 2, and then I would have just gotten back to another L2 and the fight would have been over. Here we have actually a really cool fight, a fight that's kind of fun, kind of cheesy. We have Shocker versus Node 39 Onslaught, and if you don't place a defender on this node that has buffs at the start, then you can just cheese it with anyone that can get a dex buff. So what we did here is I just threw 3 SP1s into his block so that I didn't remove my my dex, and then I just literally didn't hit him other than specials. I comboed into L2 at the end, but that's it. And that's it, all it takes to kill a Onslaught on that node. So now our last fight of the war on my main account is going to be this Photon on node 44. And she's actually going to be really, really uncooperative in this fight. It was just really not a fun fight, because this is basically the matchup that Mantis was made for. But this one just was not fun at all. She was absolutely miserable. We're going to lose like 40% of our health in this fight, and I didn't take a single hit. It's just because she wouldn't go for heavies, and because of the stun immunity, unfortunately, you do have to bait a bunch of heavies. So now we can obviously use our taunt, and we do our shortened Omega Red combos here so that I don't... I reapply the Tranquilize on every hit, so I never get any debuffs on me, other than the heavy, because that doesn't have the Tranquilize up. But yeah, our first L2 gets her down to 28%, so I just need to get back to my L2, even if I only have a half ramp. But there, she's just not throwing her specials, so I have to just hit her there. And now I just have to beta heavy, combo in, and then throw my L2. And even though I'm only at 14 charges, I know it's going to be way more than enough to kill. And yeah, it's way, way overkill by like 100k or more. And unfortunately, we do drop the first death of the season on my main account. But we have a nice 9-fight hood war here to make up for it. The only fight I did not hood was the Yelena Belova boss. And while that is doable, there's better options. We sent Deadpool X-Force this war, a rank 3 Deadpool, and he absolutely destroyed the fight in like 2 minutes. So, yeah, that's what we send. We've also sent Jean Grey before. It's kind of just whatever works out best with the paths. But if I have the choice, I would send Deadpool. He's a little faster. And we're starting out here on path 1. In section 1, we have Sassy on the first node, and really the point of this node is to stack up a bunch of regens. However, the regens are active buffs, which means that Hood is just going to shut it down. Also, this person placed with recoils. I did know that because whoever cleared first just said, like, tagged the BG and was like, hey, if you're fighting one of this guy's defenders, he has recoils on, and this is the only one of his defenders I'm fighting. But yeah, it's going to make the fight a little faster, but it doesn't really change the way the fight is. It doesn't change the difficulty at all. We're just going to play it slow, go for a bunch of extra heavies, because I'm not really going to have the opportunity to go for any extra heavies in the fight after this, so I just wanted to throw them all in this one. You can very easily heavy counter the special 2, which is something I'm going to do pretty often. But also, you really want to bypass the regeneration phase. So if this was a fight where I was not trying to save bullets, then I would have simply just... that was a really nice light intercept. I would have just saved my detonation until he was at like 40-something%, wait for Wrath to trigger, and then just heavy and completely bypass it. Or even 50%, I guess, because due to the protections, I would have more hexes than normal. Same thing when you're fighting Sentinel. But now we have a rank 4 Bastion. Bastion, not really a good defender unless he's on like aggression prowess and he keeps throwing his special 1. That's actually a decent placement for him, although Angela absolutely shreds him on that node. And the only threatening part of this fight, again, just like the last one, is the regen buffs. So Hood does not inflict debuffs in his main kit unless you go for a special 1 or a special 3, because the special 1 has a shock debuff and the special 3 has a bleed. But as long as you're just throwing SP2s, which is what you should be doing with Hood, and you don't parry, you're never going to inflict debuffs, so there's never going to be any regeneration. And Bastion is a matchup I've done many times with Hood, even though he's not been out that long, but as long as he has been. And then there I could have gone for the full dex. I don't know why I didn't full dex that L2, but I mean, I missed one of the hits, or I blocked one of the hits, so it's basically the same thing. Looks like my Ghost Rider relic actually had a degen vulnerability trigger, and that would have been prevented by the Fate Seal. But you can see it triggered because of the timer going on cooldown. So that is it for section 1. And now we're going into a matchup that I genuinely don't know why I assigned. This is a awful matchup for Hood. Like, truly terrible. Really, really bad. Because Hood into Attuma works, but the reason it works is because your special 2 is non-contact, and you just want to be spamming the special 2 for your primary source of damage. However, with the node here, with the energy resistance, my L2 and my heavy doesn't do damage. The only, like, my heavy detonation, obviously the hits from my heavy do damage. But, like, they're going to do no damage. The only damage source I have in this fight is going to be my basics. So I sent Hood into a matchup that he only really wants to take if he can throw specials, but it's a node where you can't throw specials. So I am going to survive this somehow. But this was just, in hindsight, a really, really terrible matchup that I just regret sending, because I'm only actually going to get hit once in this entire fight, and it was at the beginning, but I'm going to take so much Thorns damage that I'm almost going to die. It's just absolutely absurd how much damage I'm going to take. And I'm going to go for heavies in this fight, but the only purpose of those heavies is to get me bullets back. It's not to detonate for damage, because obviously it's not doing any damage. Also, my Fate Seal is never going to fail any of his charges because he reverses ability accuracy reduction, so it actually increases his ability accuracy. And then here, of course, when I'm trying to bait a heavy, he does a 5-hit combo into my block, takes away 10% of my health because he had the cruelty, so he does a bunch of extra damage. Had to bait out that L1, so now he's going to go unstoppable. We have the parry to remove it. I think I'm going to end up going for my special 3 right here, because my special 3 is not energy damage, so it is actually going to be normal damage. But here I'm trying to get my invisibility up. He keeps hitting into my block, and we throw the special 3. In hindsight, I should have just been throwing the special 3 the whole fight as soon as I got it, because it's just free damage, and then I also inflict a bleed, which does damage. So yeah, really dumb decision in hindsight, and probably cost me 10 to 15% of my health over the whole fight. But we do somehow walk out of that fight alive and at like 24%. Even using a regen boost. Like without the regen boost, I end at 10% health in that fight. Very, very scary. And now, this is the fight I was most scared for in my entire war. Like, between both accounts, if I thought that if I was going to die, it was going to be to this fight. And the reason is because if I get bad buffet RNG and it just consumes my invisibility every time, I don't have a way of controlling Dark Phoenix the way that Hood normally does. So we're going to go for a couple heavies off the start to get back up to 42 bullets, our maximum. We're going to wait. We're going to intentionally trigger the buffet on our decks so that we are able to activate invisibility without it failing. That one right there was guaranteed to trigger because the timer had not come back. There we actually do get buffet consuming our invisibility. And if you're curious the way that it works, Hood's Fate Seal reduces the chance of it to trigger, the buffet to trigger, which means that every single time there's a 65% chance of me to get my invisibility back and a 35% chance for it to fail. The same with her immortality. And there we do actually get her immortality to fail, but it's kind of ironic that a fight I overlooked, I survived at 24%, and then a fight that I was scared for and like really worried I would die to, I ended the fight in 40 seconds with almost full health. But now we have Sentinel on node, what's this, 37? So this is the regen root one. It's a decent placement, honestly. Sentinel with root, when he gets his max analysis, he's just going to be spamming heavy attacks while unstoppable, so you can't counter him. Honestly, good placement. However, this is once again a buff-based regen node, which means Hood is just going to absolutely annihilate it. We're going to just keep cycling L2s during the miss even. I am going to let Sentinel throw a couple special 2s in this fight, just because I wanted to be extra safe. Like right there, I could have held hard block, but I decided to bait it out. And then I think there's one more time in this fight before he dies. Oh no! Never mind, he's just dead. I thought I went for a couple more L2s, but that's kind of crazy. I guess I haven't been using the Strife synergy recently, so I forget just how absolutely absurd it is that you can end fights against a champion like Sentinel in 30 seconds, but 37 seconds. But yeah. So now we have Shocker on node 41. I've taken this with Angela before, but it kind of made more sense for me to do it with Hood than with Angela. So we are using Hood today. I knew that a full combo, as long as the first hit lands during the stun, is not going to push the defender to special 1, even with Power Focus 2. So that is why we did that. But our goal in this fight is to not let Shocker throw a single special. And as long as we keep hitting him, it's not really going to be an issue, except for the fact that he does not hit into me while I have invisibility. We get pretty good RNG right there, and we actually get the route to fail from our Fate Seal, that's what I meant to say. And then here he throws an SP1 into my block, which is just wonderful. And then here we're going to detonate off the heavy, and that is going to kill. So another nice 40-second Hood fight. And we do have one more fight before we get to the mini-boss island. And here I was just counting my energy to see if I needed to buy a full energy refill or if I could get away with 2 of the small ones. And I needed 5 energy to get to my last fight, so I am going to use one of the big ones. However, this is only a rank 3 Maestro. I'm used to seeing rank 4 Maestros on defense because basically everyone places him, and I'd say he's a defender worth taking to rank 4 for defense. I mean, I have mine rank 4 on defense. Node 45, absolute joke. Yeah, this is a bad placement for Maestro. He's going to get hooded pretty often here. There's other counters, obviously. Here we get pretty good hazard shift RNG, and on our first 9 hits, we don't get a single one. And then there we get 1-2 in a row. Of course, right after I say good RNG, there's an instance of bad RNG. And now we're actually getting quite a lot of bleeds, considering that he has a Fate Seal on him. That's pretty unlikely to get that many bleeds. So maybe our RNG wasn't that good. But now he's at 55%. I feel like I can detonate. And yeah, 322k burst damage. Just absolutely insane, the numbers coming out of Hood. If that was a rank 4 Maestro, I think I probably would have gone for one more L2, maybe 2, but probably just one more. Because I usually base it off the percentage of health that the defender has left and not the rank. Because normally it's like 45% hit and special, 55% hex, roughly. It's roughly 50-50. It just really depends on the fight. Like if it's a defender that has more physical resistance than energy resistance, then I would do more hexes and less hits. Like for example, Sentinel. But if it was the opposite, for example, against the energy node, the energy resistance node, then I would do more basics. So yeah, this dude's gonna be annoying. We're gonna get really brutal power steal RNG, and here we get 4 power steals failed in a row, but luckily we do get saved by him not throwing the special 3 right away. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to drain his power because my invisibility failed before the end of my special 2. So we did push him to special 3, and due to the nature of this fight, you cannot be running an invuln. That probably makes you more likely to die if you run an invuln, honestly. Here we have to detonate. The reason I had to detonate was because I needed an opportunity to get my invisibility back, and I hadn't had one. Here we get our invisibility back, but we did take an L2 to the face because he decided to throw it. And at this point, I'm worried I'm going to die because I know for a fact that another L2 kills. So we're just trying to cycle L2s. At this point, 21 hexes. I know I have enough hexes, so we combo into a striker, into a heavy, and that does kill. Had I not had my invisibility up there, that might not have killed. However, the effects that Aspect of Evolution have, energy resist is not one of them. Physical resist is one of them, I believe, but I'm pretty sure there's no energy resist from Aspect of Evolution, so that's pretty nice. We have this Korg on node 48, and this is a pretty bad placement. I don't really understand why he's here. We're just going to use Hood. Hood is a great counter to Korg in general, well, if he wants to behave. Here he really did not want to go for my intercepts. He was giving me a really hard time, and I'm going to take some Bane damage because of it. And there we were forced to take some Thorns damage to remove the Bane. But there he goes for a special 1, and I didn't notice until too late, so I ate the special 1, taking even more Bane damage. And I did notice that I had no bullets when going into this fight, but I knew that for a fight like this, I really just didn't need them, frankly. There we hit a really nice light intercept. We're just going to spam special 2. If I don't have bullets, I don't have bullets. Korg's a really easy matchup, and as the fight goes on, the amount of rock stacks he's going to trigger is going to be lowered. Like every single time his rock stacks trigger, or his rock shield triggers, he has 1 less charge than he did before. And also you'll notice in this fight that I'm not detonating my hexes very often. The reason I'm not detonating them is because the safeguard node, while it does not stop Hood's burst damage, what it does do is it reduces the damage of each individual burst down to 1%. So there's no reason to detonate to get the extra attack rating on the detonation, because 7 hexes is going to do exactly 7%, regardless of if you detonate it or not. So it's just not really worth it, and I'd rather just kill from hits anyways in a fight like this. I'd rather not prioritize bullets. And here I think we're going to hit him with a nice heavy attack. Yeah, just get a couple bullets back, activate my invisibility, and at this point, oh, I didn't notice I got a power steal on the first medium, which means I'm being sent to special 3. The L2 would have done 5% and inflicted 5 more hexes, so I would have been really close to killing, but we're not. Instead, we have to do a couple more combos, and he is going to get an extra shield. But here, we're just going to throw the L2, and he does go down. So bad fight by me. I ate a special 1, and then I think I also ate like 2 hits somewhere in the fight. But we did win this war. We had a really, really clean war, and we ended up beating them with a score of 9-5, which, I mean, to be fair, that's a very respectable score by them. GG's to 2-1-1. But unfortunately, they could not be as nice as they accused us of modding for beating them. Like, I get it. We died 20 times last war, but a 5-death war is not something we haven't done before. We did that last season as well. So I'm sorry you don't pay attention to our results, but this is not an unusual score for us. So I'm sorry that you lost. But yeah, GG's. I'm trying to be nice. They weren't very nice about it, or at least a couple guys weren't. But yeah, GG's to 2-1-1, and we are now 2-1 on the season. I have 1 death total, which is on my main account. My PSR on my main account is 16 out of 17, or 94%. And my alt is at 23 out of 23, or 100%. Overall, I'm at 39 out of 40, which is 98% solar rate. And unfortunately, our Deathless streak is going to reset. So we are at a Deathless streak of 11 fights, which was 2 on my main account after the death to Spider-Woman, and then 9 on my alt. And I also have an active streak of 2 fights on my main and 36 on my alt. So we were actually getting pretty close to a 100 fight streak on my main before that death in this war. So that's unfortunate, but we're just going to try to build it up and do the best we can. So that is all. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.